My name is Jackie Segura. The purpose of this assignment is to reflect on the needs and challenges of disaster workers of Hurricane Katrina as seen in the video, Needs and Challenges of Disaster. The first question we're answering is, what are the needs and challenges of the heroic phase? The heroic phase is an energized phase. It's very intoxicating and there's a sense of coming together. Some needs that are shown are a denial of impact the disaster is having on people's homes, the denial of impact of disaster on them and their families or any kind of self-care, the utilization of extraordinary measures to protect their homes and family, and also stockpiling community assets. These are usually the needs of the people experiencing the disaster. Challenges can also be long hours and long days for the workers, and also a denial of needs and the magnitude of the disaster. There's really no long-term outlook, and denial is used as a coping mechanism. In the honeymoon phase, it can include what's called a crash point, where people become exhausted, worn out, and it's not always warm and fuzzy. They can experience great gratitude, like everything is going to be okay, and they focus on feel-good stories and normalcy is possible. Who is affected by this? Staff members, elderly, and very young survivors. When does this happen? After the heroic phase due to exhaustion and no self-care. The victims are not only the people who died during the storm or the trauma and tragedy, it's also the people who are hurt and die afterwards as an effect of it. Why does this occur? People work so hard to try and get back to normalcy, but ignore the physical and emotional toll it can take on the body. Not all deaths happened during the storm. Lots of people died as a result of the storm after it passed. During the disillusionment phase, fear, anger, and hopelessness can set in. There are different types of clinical conditions that can develop from these circumstances. Post-traumatic growth, depression, drinking, drug use, gambling, relationship struggles, and childhood traumas can resurface. The types of treatment that can be used to overcome them is individual therapy, group therapy, intensive outpatient treatment, and interventions. It's most important to provide training for any of the workers who are going to be helping these people. And we can also help people develop disaster plans. We can focus on Bible studies around spiritual disaster preparedness and have multiple technological ways to communicate in place in case of a future disaster. You can also work with other churches to provide places to evacuate or work with during and after a disaster. Know and build relationships with local resources such as churches, any kind of community outreach project, honestly. Provide support and services as other nonprofits move out. In the wake of a trauma like Hurricane Katrina, there's going to be a lot of people who come in to help. But after a while, those resources get pulled back and, people can feel left with nothing. Like they may not have any help left. So making sure that you always have somebody available for them is important. Provide support and services for anybody who may need them, children, adults, families, and also focus on burnout for people still providing direct services. Long hours and long days can really take a toll on people who are just trying to help. Encourage and refer people to mental health services, whether it's an inpatient, an outpatient, or even if it's just a helpline. People need to know that there are services available to help them. Provide recreation events for stress reduction. Things as small as, a basketball game, a game of cards for children to sit and play together can really help relieve a lot of stress for families. It can give the parents a break to be able to just kind of look around and see what it is they need to do or where they're at now. Encourage people to have hope and healing through Christ. Being able to pray for people and show them God's love is most important when disasters like Katrina happen. And also foster community versus isolation. It's easy to become depressed and want to isolate yourself from people when you feel like you've lost everything. But knowing that you have a community, whether it's your neighbors, your church, or even just, a social group, knowing you have somebody to talk to really does help keep from becoming depressed. And a lot of times drinking, drug use, and gambling, those types of things are a result of the stress that people are feeling when they feel like they've lost everything. They lost their homes, they lost their cars. A lot of them lost family members. It can also create relationship struggles. When you've lost everything, you're struggling with, having children and nowhere to take them, struggling to figure out how you're going to feed them. It's easy to have relationship issues, and those can turn into old childhood traumas resurfacing from past abuse, and also homelessness. That is a really huge issue for a lot of people post Katrina. It may take up to 20 years for everything to be sorted out and people to be back to a normal way of life there. But providing any kind of services for these people to be able to, just have a hot meal or a place to sleep is really what's most important. There's so many different phases that people and survivors go through. It's easy to just see everybody jump in at the beginning and say, "Hey, we're going to fix this, we're going to make it great." But the burnout is real. And when it takes up to 20 years to be able to fix a city, really, you know, it's hard to have the outlook that it can happen. And just looking at small things that can be fixed, like, having a place to sleep for the night, or having a hot meal, or knowing that there's going to be someone to come and help you when you need it, is very important. It's important to help a family get back to normal. It's important to help an elderly person to find the resources they need. Many hospitals were damaged during the storm, and there are a lot of elderly people who died as a result because they weren't able to receive the treatments that they needed. And these life-saving treatments can also be, extended to small children. A lot of children got moved out of the city, after there were damages to the hospitals. But a lot of them maybe didn't have the resources that they needed, like formula, clean water, diapers, and that can create its own illness and can, hurt the smallest of survivors. Babies dehydrate so much faster than adults, and it's easy for us to forget that they depend on us. We can't just give them an apple and say, "Here, eat." The families need to be given the resources they need to be able to take care of their children, whether they're infants, toddlers, or even adult children. There's adult children with special needs who no longer had access to any of their care. So making sure that we are always there for every single phase is important, and making sure that there's waves of people that come through to help with the burnout. It's easy to say, I'm going to go put my time in and I'm going to help, but 12, 14, 16-hour days, for a week at a time can really take a toll on a body. It takes an emotional toll from all the cleanup, from all the horror and destruction, and also just a physical toll on your body. There's no AC, there's nowhere to go and relax and cool off and decompress. The entire city's been destroyed. So making sure that we have waves of people to come in and help relieve those that are struggling, with their own mental health as a first responder is really, really important. We need to make sure that, people don't have hopelessness set in. It's easy to get really sad about looking around at all the destruction, but knowing that you can go to a church or a nonprofit organization that's there, or even just your neighbor who may have a little bit more than you or anything to share is important. Fear and anger are our biggest enemies when we have a disaster because those cause us to act out in ways that we normally wouldn't. Stealing to try and feed your children can turn into violence, which can destroy a community. But this is something that we can work on, and we can do that with counseling and also outpatient services. Maybe not everybody has the ability to go into an inpatient facility or access to it, but meeting with people, who are counselors, who are there on site to help during the trauma is very important. Or even just a hotline, having a phone number where you can call and talk to somebody when you feel like you've been overwhelmed is very important. So making sure that those resources are available to everyone, whether they're a child, an adult, or an elderly person, they need to know that they can reach out to somebody, and those helplines can help them get in touch with people that they need to be able to get the help that they need. And also just churches who come together and want to give food or want to give prayers. Sometimes it's just a hug. People need to know that God still loves them. He did not forsake them. And this Hurricane Katrina was not a punishment. It was not to be used to hurt people. It was a natural disaster. And God can heal us from natural disasters and pain. God can heal the loss and fill the hole that we feel like we're having, whether it's, a loss of a home, a loss of a family member. God is there with us all the time. So we need to know that there are people there to help us and support us spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I've included the following resources in my response, and that's the needs and challenges of disaster video via YouTube. Thank you.